Chetna, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this interview with India Global Business. You're one of the pioneers in India for financial inclusion and women's empowerment, having set up the Mann, Deshi, Mahila, Sahakari Bank, India's first bank for and by rural women. So please tell us what inspired this journey.
So thanks, Ishita. And I'm thankful to India Global Business to get me an opportunity to share the experiences which I've learned so much from rural women. When I was in University of Mumbai studying and doing my undergraduate program, at that time a Gandhian leader, Jayaprakash Narayan, was moving around to the universities. He was old though, but he was moving. His movement started with anti-emergency or, having the voices for democracy. But he was actually moving in universities and appealing all the young students that I need young students and they should go to rural India, work in the villages of India. It's not anything to do with the party or nothing, but you have to do the politics of rural people, talk about the development and all that. And so when I was at the university, I got an opportunity to hear him personally, meet him, and I was very much impressed and attracted by that whole idea. And so I joined the organization he started, Sangharsh Vahini, and that was a organization for students and youth, which was working in rural India and taking up the, working with the Dalit community, working on the wages and daily income issues for poor people. And so that's how actually I got, from your student, very young, as a student, but I got into a public life when I was doing my undergraduate program, and I started moving, traveling a lot in India. And the whole thing was that I want to work with villagers and, want to change the lives of villagers and all that. I finished my education. I was teaching economics in Mumbai, but then I felt like, life between Mumbai and where Vijay was in Maswad village, which was at that time, it used to take 12 hours by road to reach there. So it became quite difficult for me. And so I decided that I'm done with Mumbai. And I said, I'll leave Mumbai and shift to Maswad in Satara district in Maharashtra, which is actually a very drought-stricken area and very backward. And it's a pasture land. But the important part apart from the negative situation of drought and everything, is that it has a very vibrant nomadic community. And women are very, most of the families were at that time women-led families. Because of the drought, migration was there. And so, so that's why working with women became a big thing. Because majority of the population which was residing in the area was women, because men had to migrate in search of jobs, and women would take care of the families, animals, and whatever small plot of land they had. So that's how both of us started working. And after marriage also, actually I had not thought that I'm going to set up the bank. It was never in my mind. It was just when I was working with women, and Ishita, this story I must have shared like 1,000 times. But every time I share it, it gives me not only just a different energy to share with the people, but it also keeps me reminding me that, communities are so wise. And so when I was working with women in Maswad in Satara district of Maharashtra, one lady came to me, Kantabai. She was doing her business on the street, and she was staying also on the street. She didn't have house, and she was sharpening the weeders. So her business was to sharpen the tools which farmers are using in the field. And She also herself comes from a nomadic tribe. So these are very caste-based business in India. And when she came to me and she said that I want to open a saving account, and so then when she came to me and said that, I felt like, so you should go to bank, no, when you want to open a saving account. But then I had a question that you yourself are staying on the street, you're doing a business on the street, and with your children you don't have house. So do you have a money to save? But she was insistent, and she said that, I want to do savings because I want to buy a tarpaulin sheet to cover my family. And it's a drought area. We have a very harsh summer. We have a 50 degrees Celsius in summer, and it's too much, too hot for a families to be on the street. So she said that I want to buy a tarpaulin sheet, and so because of to buy that, I want to save money. I was just like quiet for a while, like, she wants to save to buy a tarpaulin sheet. And so, and she said that the banks are not opening the account. So I said, okay, I'll come with you to the bank so that they open the account. And I went with her, with Kantabai, to different banks to get her bank account opened, which she wanted to save her money. And banks denied, saying that she's not an affordable client for us because her savings are too small. And she was insisting also to save daily. So then I felt that she's not asking for any grant, or she's not asking for any subsidy or any support, or she's not asking for loan. What she's asking is to save, get an opportunity to save hard-earned money. And that is all her. She has that right. And so then I felt like, if banks are not opening the account, why don't we start a bank for women like Kantabai? That's how the whole idea of bank came in. And with that idea, I just went directly to Central Bank of India, or in India, you would say Reserve Bank of India, right? So I went directly, and I met a director at Reserve Bank of India, and I said that we want to start a women's bank, and let me know how can we start. And they were like, are you sure what you are talking about? And I said, yeah, we want to start a bank. And so, but I was like, he did, listen, and he said that we'll have to apply for the banking license, and we need to give a lot of information and business plan and proposal, which, at that time, I just did with our women, just did it on our own, no professionals, nothing. We just made a very simple plan that how these women are, either the wage earners, and why they want to bank and all that. And you have to give details about their businesses, about their locations, about their education. And when it came to education, all our women were non-literate. And even as a shareholder, when they have to sign, so they had a thumb impression there. And when we gave the proposal, our proposal was rejected on the ground that central bank cannot issue a license to the banks, to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. And so I was quite nervous. I came back from Mumbai, and in a way, I was like quietly weeping. And I told women that, we couldn't get the license because our women had a thumb impression, and these are the promoting members. And Reserve Bank said that we cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting members are non-literate. So, but women responded like, we didn't get the license. And for 6 months, we just were not, I was just moving around with my colleague Ruxana on two-wheeler from village to start the literacy classes. And after 6 months, we applied again. And at that time, I didn't go alone. I told our women that you all should come with me. And in fact, I wasn't even sure because I thought we won't get the license. And so I wanted them to face also with me, whatever decision we are going to get. So we went together. 15 women accompanied me to the Reserve Bank of India in Mumbai. I wasn't sure what they are going to talk, but I could see the confidence in them. And so we went there. Our women, as they told me, they told the director there that you rejected the license because we cannot read and write, but we can count. But they challenged the officer saying that, tell us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license. Tell your officers to do it without calculator, without computers, and see who can calculate faster. That confidence in women, which the director must have seen, made our meeting went on for 2 hours. And then he was asking a lot of questions, and women were replying every question very smartly and spontaneously. And we came back, and we had no idea that we'll get the license or not. But after 2 months, our license came by post, and and at that time there were no direct call. So I got a trunk call from Reserve Bank of India saying that we have this is the first rural women's bank which is getting the license, and we have first time posted the license. And so they told me you go through everything and you all can start the bank. So that was very different. Never thought to start the bank, but then the whole responsibility came up, and then I suddenly realized that, yes, we have got the banking license, but now it is a time to prove yourself, right? So, yeah, then in 1997, Deshi, Mahila's Cooperative Bank, we got the banking license. It was the first rural women's bank, and which was managed by women. And that was a sort of my learning journey started. When people tell me about financial inclusion or anything, I think my journey of financial inclusion started in 1997. Yeah.
Oh, what an incredible journey that was, Chetna. It's still going. Certainly, you've been doing so much already, and I'm really curious to know. Obviously, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in India where it comes to vulnerable sections of society, rural communities, and certainly COVID-19 has put a spanner in the works. There's been a huge impact, certainly not a very good impact, particularly made vulnerable communities more vulnerable. So what are your thoughts on that? What do you think are the steps that the government, the private sector needs to take in order to overcome some of these challenges? And what are the most pertinent challenges that the rural community is facing today?
So, when this whole COVID outbreak came up, and particularly when I saw in India, from 23rd March, we had a complete lockdown, right? And it's not only just on one side, the COVID, which people didn't know how to respond and react to that. That is one. And it's not only just the regular people, but nobody knew, right? Including the government or including the policymakers and all. And on the other side, you have a huge population who is surviving on, and lockdown made their life miserable. And so on one side, so in that situation, when everybody was struggling and we could see that, there were nothing was available, no masks were available and all. The most striking thing I felt was that with so many people around, when they lost their jobs, when they were not sure how their income will come from, in middle of that, all that, on Monday, she was also trying to, we had a radio, we were trying to release the program on radio, how to respond it, and on radio, how to respond this COVID and all that. But what was happening in people's life was very different, right? So we saw one of our women, Savita. She's actually she has a small unit of making the uniforms for kids, and she's surviving on that with her family, and she has a little bit of machinery, and she all the orders were cancelled because schools are not going to open, right? She had no idea. She had machines, she had cloth all the way, but she wasn't sure from where her dinner will come. And in that situation, what she did was that she stitched some 100 masks immediately and stood on the road to sell it. And she got the client, like within 1 hour, her 100 masks were sold. And then that idea made her think that, this is the thing which I will get the business, right? So, and now, of course, she has trained around more than 600 women, and every day more than 15,000 masks are being made. But with this narrative, what I would like to share is that in middle of all this, how community is responding, the resilience which you see in the community is amazing. And what I'm trying to say is that this clearly narrated that whole our micro enterprise sector, or you can say that all this, we have a big corporate world globally, everything is there. But how shaky it is actually came out very clearly during COVID, that even the simple masks were not available, not in India, but all over the world, which clearly indicated that our whole system needs to be reset now. There's something, it's totally flawed. And I think what Savita showed us is that one is that there is an opportunity now to reset the whole narrative, right? That was the thing which came from Savita. That so I strongly feel that it's either whatever it is, either it is the world of enterprise, either it is a world of banking, or everything has to be revisited and you have to reinvent everything. The whole, and not only that, but I also feel that, okay, if I take my cell phone and if I want to see, what do I go immediately is, what is the number of COVID today, right? I would say in the world, where the countries, which country is where. And then you realize that we have made a mess with our health system. And that's why it clearly indicates there. So in that, on one side you see that, but on other side, when I'm sitting in Maswad and in a very remote location where everything around is farming, farmers are on the field. They are growing their produce. They are busy in sowing, harvesting, everything. Though they are also facing a lot of challenges. But what I would like to hear, concluding the reply, is that people, those who are working very hard, they want to be productive. They want to give some, either it is a farm produce or it is something like mask. They are ready to produce for the economy. Now economy has to create the spaces for these people, right? It's more of that. And I think that is onus on us to do that. And when I say that, what I mean is that from like Mandeshi, either it is a Mandeshi bank, or we have set up a chambers of commerce for rural women entrepreneurs. But the whole narrative has to be taken at the scale where policymakers will have to think. And we have an opportunity of digitalization now. See, these masks are produced by our women who never did any. I mean, every day more than 15,000 masks are being produced, but there's no manufacturing unit. Women are doing it from home, and the design is going by virtually to them, and they are taking course also virtually through the business school of Mandeshi. So it clearly we can see that it's not that difficult to reinvent the whole processes or reinvent economics.
Just talking a little bit about that, I mean, obviously you have so much experience on the ground working with rural communities, and like you said, there's a real need now to reset the narrative and build back better, as everyone is saying. So how do you see this change transform in the sectors of, say, social finance or financial inclusion? What are your thoughts on the first steps that need to be taken?
So when I would say, like, in financial inclusion, and when we talk about, the first thing, of course, would come is like the major role which financial inclusion will have, one has to think is that how do we bring the population which are alienated or excluded into the, how do you include them, right? That is the one thing. And where Mandeshi Bank has a solid experience of 22 years now. And here I would just say, very important thing would be, if we really want to see the financial inclusion successful, the first thing we have to do is that get that whole mindset of access to financial inclusion, to get out of that. Because many times we end up saying that, these people are excluded, and so provide them an access. Women who is in the village, she is not just thinking of opening the account. She wants to do transaction daily, right? She needs the bank daily because her cash flows are very small. And she's not a salary earner people where her cash flows is monthly. She earns daily and she spends daily, right? So, which actually means that she would need this whole platform daily. And how do you provide that? And so just opening the account is not, it's quite limited. And if we really want to do that, then actually what I have learned with Mandeshi Bank is that Mandeshi Bank had to create that capacity that these women who are very smart, how can they do the transaction daily, digitally, at their doorstep? Before it was just a doorstep banking, right? Because they couldn't come to the bank, bank will go to them. And we provided physically. Now it's not that also. Now it's doorstep digital banking. How do you do it? So the one, and then they have smartphones. And they are so smart that they will buy smartphones. But the whole thing is that whatever you design the tool for them has to be easy to access. That is number one. Then second, has to be capable enough to get their trust. When I see that, what I mean is that when women do transaction, when the Mandeshi women do transaction digitally on the digital phone, by any Mandeshi itself as a mobile banking, but there are a lot of other platform where they use all, either it is PhonePe, Google, UPI, I mean, even government have BHIM app. The first thing they say is that I will do a transaction of 1 rupee. And if it is successful, I will do it. And they do it. But the onus is that they have to get the success SMS immediately within at least 10-15 minutes, right? And then, because poor people are generally cheated most, so they want to make sure that nobody is cheating me, right? And so there are 2-3 things when you want to do financial inclusion and make it successful. The one thing is that they have a right on the proper connectivity wherever they are, either in the hills of Himalayas or in the pasture land of Mann Taluka, because poor people and poor community is going to be on the remote location or in the slums of Dharavi, right? But they need a proper internet. And that is one which is, if they get that and they get the messages immediately, obviously the trust will be built. And because, and let me give you another example of one of our women, Anjana Bhise. Actually, her business is she sells brooms on the street. And this is actually a caste related business again. Kantabai was nomadic. Anjana comes from a Dalit community. But with the lockdown, she was not allowed to do the business on the street, and also are not going to come to the street and buy her brooms. So, and a lot of Mumbai people came back to the villages. So they have a habit of having the snacks in evening. And so she thought, why don't I prepare a bhel and vada pav? These are like, Indian snacks which people really like it, and sell it in the evening and provide it at the doorstep. And so she created a WhatsApp group of those villages, and then she started getting the order on the WhatsApp. Her son was doing the doorstep delivery, and she herself told her client that send me money on digitally, so that I can buy a raw material digitally, right? So the second thing what she was suggesting is that when you're talking about the digitalization, you have to digitalize the whole ecosystem, which she did it herself. And so if you want the poor community and people, those who are excluded in financial inclusion, you just have to create that whole ecosystem in such a way that everywhere. So Anjana Bhise, she sources her money digitally. She does business on WhatsApp, so digitally. She gets payment digitally. And that actually reduces her cost also. So she gets a better margin. But these are done, she has done individually. But actually, when the people, those who talk about social finances, people, those who talk about social ventures and all that, I think, again, there is a need of redefine the whole narrative, that we will have to connect these dots. And onus is not on poor people to do it. Here, Anjana has done it. But onus is in the policymakers. Onus is on the corporate world. That in your whole digital framework, these people their stories has to be there in your digital platform. Then only one will be able to connect this, right? And if they come in, actually the actual growth at the ground level, whatever, either it is a GDP growth or whatever is going to happen. I mean, countries like India cannot climb the ladder of index of doing business at ease. You may climb a ladder, say 2-3 countries beyond. But if you really want to change the narrative, you just have to think at the level of Kantabai, Anjana, because their sharp brains are working there, and we have to learn from them. And so the learning for me was that yes, digital financial literacy is important. We should provide them, and they are ready for that. But we should also learn that for them, digital source of money is important. That literacy, that onus of learning is on us. So I feel that in this whole financial inclusion, the most important part is that how do we bring hundreds and thousands of population which is there, which is sitting ready for this, can be a part of it. And if they become a part of it, when women come for the loan to set up their business, they would say that, you know what, if my husband would say that I want to start a business, even in that, friends and families would come forward, right? Or parents would say that, okay, even if you lose in business, it's fine, beta. Just don't bother about it, but you go and start. And with women, they will say, like, you cannot be where. If you are going to lose in the business, you will have to leave the house, right? So even the socially also, this hurdle is there.